Guys, this video is brought to you by our friends at Lucy. Lucy was founded by Caltech scientists on a mission to reduce tobacco-related harm with a tobacco alternative that doesn't suck. As former smokers dissatisfied with traditional nicotine options, they knew there was a better way for adult tobacco users. This was a big challenge, but they did it with their innovative nicotine gum. With 4 milligrams of nicotine in each piece, you can literally get a dose anywhere, anytime. I encourage my friends who smoke to choose Lucy gum over cigarettes or vapes for all of the obvious reasons. As you know, nicotine is addictive, so use discretion. Lucy gum comes in 3 delicious flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. Visit lucy.co. Use the promo code Chael20. That's going to save you 20% off your entire order. That's Lucy, Lucy.co, or click on the link in the description. Remember, nicotine is addictive, so use discretion. The economics of the fight business are very fascinating, and nobody knows them. Nobody knows them. I just read a piece by a reputable reporter who's been around for a very long time, speaking about the discrepancies in fighter pay from the stance that it was unfair. Now, if I was to ask that reporter if he's ever made $1 in MMA, he would say no. And I go, okay, I understand that. Very few people have. But let me ask you how you would. What are the economics of the fight game? Where does the money come from? And I can assure you what he would tell me. He would tell me live gate and pay-per-view. He would say that because it's all he knows, because he doesn't have the foggiest idea what he's talking about. But the economics of it do get very interesting. And they are a gamble. You are gambling and betting that things are going to work out. Having an interesting algorithm and analysis to get to that opinion. But it's still a bet. So let's say you have somebody like Jon Jones, okay, who is not a bankable guy. And early in Jon's career, he was so good that many people thought he can go on and be like Jordan. Now, what that means is it didn't matter who Jordan was playing. You would tune in and the ratings would do great because he had such a rare ability that you wanted to see it regardless of the outcome or who he was going to dribble around to do a layup. That just didn't happen for Jon. I was at Jon's last 3 fights. None of them were sold out. Jon just didn't go on to be that level of draw, but he did have that Jordan-esque talent where it is you're seeing a real talent in front of you. There's something there. But it didn't go on to be the draw. And very few guys do. In the world of MMA, there's been 2 ever. Ever. It was Ronda Rousey for a cup of coffee. Numbers were never as good as they reported. And it's Conor McGregor. To an extent, Lesnar would need to go into that category as well. To an extent. But I bring this up to you because Francis could be that guy. Francis really could go on to be that guy. He's got an incredible story. He's got an incredible look. He looks like he's carved out of stone. He's getting better. He's quiet, which makes him mysterious, which is great for marketing. He should remain quiet. He should remain mysterious. But I'm offering for you, do you need somebody for Francis? And I don't know. And you don't know either. And Dana doesn't know. It's going to be a guess, but if I was to guess, I do believe that Francis will be the next guy. Much like Conor, the cup of coffee that Ronda had, I think that Francis can go for a period of time of being very interesting. You're going to stop what you're doing to tune in for Francis. He has that Mike Tyson feel to him in many ways, where this isn't just a great athlete. This is an athlete that's going to go out there, tell you ahead of time what he's going to do, and then do it, which in Francis's case is knock you out with either a left or a right hand. And his level of destruction is very interesting and it's very compelling if you're any kind of a combat fan. Particularly how well he does it. And you can become a victim of your own success. This happened to Iron Mike, if we're going to use him as an example. Iron Mike was knocking guys out so fast that Don King and DirecTV had to come out and tell the customers, if this doesn't get out of the first round, if this is 1 round or less, we will give you half of your money back. Because people quit buying Tyson fights. You'd have a party. You'd have your friends over. You'd have the food and the drink and the couch and the TV all set up. 2 minutes later, your party's over. It became diminishing. So, and they even had to handle it that way. Come out, if this goes less than 3 minutes, we refund half of your money. Don't even ask, we'll take it off your bill. It was a deal that they made with the public ahead of time. But I bring you that example so that you do understand there is a level of greatness that people don't want to see. It can become problematic. I don't believe Francis is there, particularly in the short term. The heavyweight division is looking very good right now. And there's a number of up-and-comers that are going to be ready to fill in the void when some of these veterans get toppled and are gone. So it's one of these things where if you're looking at the economics of it, you go, look, John and Fred, that's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And there's also going to be the evil side of the promoter that's sick of putting up with this guy who's acting like nothing but a diva and a pain in the ass. A guy who you gave him a car, he wrapped it around a phone pole. A guy who you flew out and sat in the courtroom to lend him support on the day of sentencing and instantly brought back in. A guy who went on to fail drug tests, continued to fail him, and you came up with a very great story about picograms, sold it to the public, sold it to the athletic commissions, and got him millions of dollars, and he is now taking the gun and turning it on you. You're going to have a tremendous frustration about doing business with that guy, but there is going to be your evil side that goes, well, he's not going to beat Francis. Let's get him cleaned up and get the hell done with him anyway. I don't have to worry about some of the activations of his contract because he's not going to become the champion anyway. So give him what he wants, get him in there, and we can be done with him forever. That is going to kick in at some point. But you have to understand, absent of that, you don't make the fight. How am I going to do a deal? How am I going to go into business with a guy who I currently have a deal with and isn't honoring his deal? He's not honoring it to the degree that in spite of everything I did for him, 3 split decisions that he squeaked by in a different division that is so light right now that a 42-year-old is the number 1 contender. I mean, in all fairness, and he walks away from that, takes his ball and goes home, goes on social media and says that I'm doing business wrong. I have a contract with the guy. The guy's not honoring a legal contract. Aside from his word, he's now broken them both. But I'm going to give him a multi-fight deal and possibly put my strap around him in my most coveted weight class. I mean, you see what you're up against? You would do that if you had a projection that the numbers and you just couldn't turn it away. And I won't make believe for you that Derek Lewis versus Francis is a bigger fight. I'm just telling you it's big enough. Right on the front end of what you don't have to deal with this guy. And then you got to think of the other case scenario. What if he does beat Francis? Now he's got my belt. Every dishonest trick that he's done to me, including right now, I'm going to have to, and he's going to do it again? He has no power right now. He's not even licensed. He has no belt. I'm going to put a belt on him? This is how he's acting now. I'm going to give him a belt? I mean, you see the problems. You see the problems with the economics of that, not to mention Francis's next 3 fights. I could lay them out for you right now, regardless of opponent. They're going to be a big deal. They're going to be a very big deal. John's next fight at heavyweight, if against Francis, is going to be a big deal. If John wins, it's not. It's not. And if John wins, it's not. John versus Curtis Blades just isn't it's just not. So now you have the economics of it, not to mention the pain in the ass of it, not to mention a fight that makes a lot more sense because the Black Beast is standing right there and just knocked out Blades in a main event on ESPN in front of the world. I got to go into the editing department and bring B-roll forward to remind people of this guy's last fight. Everybody saw this guy's last fight. I mean, it's not as easy as you think. And I know that there is a perception that, well, they'll just go with the biggest fight. They'll just go with the biggest fight. That's a great place to start looking, but that's a very lazy approach. And you're talking about checkers. When you're dealing with a man that plays chess, he has to look at 2 and 3 fights ahead, which in one direction is very smooth sailing, and in another direction is a tremendous headache that he will be creating for himself. But these are the economics of the fight game. You have to look into it. You have to consider it. And you're going to hear from reporters, oh, it's a live gate and it's a pay-per-view. They don't know the fight business. They don't know what they're talking about. Few do. And I can assure you, the ones that do, we don't give it away. It's a very closed-mouth industry. You protect the business, protect your business. And the first thing you do is control information. These guys that are coming out and talking about an instability between revenue and payouts don't know the business.